Okay, so I've got my thumbnails of 3 different landscapes, and then what I did was I took 2 of them and kind of combined them. And I practiced some of the contour lines over here. So what I'm gonna do is just start filling in. I don't want you to fill in your actual artwork with pencil lines. Just go directly with Sharpie, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and start. You can outline it if you want. Okay, so once you get your line landscape drawn, then you're gonna add color, okay? And I would use your thumbnails and come up with a color scheme that you like. It doesn't have to match your landscape exactly to be able to tell if you're gonna like the color scheme. Okay, so once you've practiced some color schemes on your thumbnails, you can start to apply color to your final landscape. I'm using these twistable crayons. You can also use colored pencil. You could use watercolor paint, or if you're using a different surface, or markers, okay? So whatever you want to use. So I think I'm just going to start at the top. What we're going to do is we're going to cut these apart and make fractured landscapes. So I know that might be hard for some of you guys, but just take a picture of your art, you know, before you cut it up if you want. If you're not feeling the fractured part of this lesson, but once it's done, I think you're really going to like it the way it looks fractured. And it's important as artists to realize that we're always in process, right? You don't want to always be worried about it looking perfect at the end. You want to try to let yourself experiment and process things differently. Okay? All right, so there's the sky, and then what I want to do in my mountains is I'm gonna do purple, I think. So the highlight is these lighter lines. The lines further apart look lighter. The lines that are closer together look more like a shadow. So I'm following that with my color. Just re-emphasizing the shadow and the light. So even though this is my thumbnail looks different than what I'm actually doing, but the important part isn't that it looks exactly like your thumbnail, but that you learned something from doing the thumbnail and now are going to apply it in your final art, okay? The thumbnail, it doesn't have to look exactly like what your final art is going to look like, okay? And then I'm going to switch to blue. I'm going to overlap the blue a little bit. You can use any color scheme you want. It does not have to be at all realistic. These hills could be purple if you wanted, and the sky could be green. It's 100% up to you, and that's what's going to make these landscapes really beautiful is the colors that you choose to use. Okay, so there we go. So that's the color version. And then we're going to break it apart. So here's an example of one that's already been done. I did this one strongly vertical, and you can cut these apart in any way you want. And then we're gonna glue it onto black cardstock. So anyway, there you go. Okay, so this is another landscape that I created, and I'm gonna show you how to cut it apart using this landscape. So it's super important that as you cut, you just lay your pieces down in the same order so you know how to put your landscape back together. Now, this isn't as easy as it looks, you guys, so take your time. It requires a lot of critical thinking on your part, actually, to decide how you're going to cut it, as well as figuring out how to put it back together and make it look fractured. So I'm going to keep going with this. These are not glued down yet, but you want to leave them in place before you start to glue. Once we get everything cut apart, I'll show you how to glue it down. Okay, so I cut apart my landscape and placed it on one sheet of paper, and I'm going to glue it down to another piece of black cardstock. And you also want to have a scrap piece of white paper so that when you put the glue on, it's not getting all over your black paper. And I'm just starting on the bottom right hand corner. The actual landscape is going to be bigger once it's fractured, so start with a larger piece of paper than you think you need. I would line it up on one edge. I just lined mine up on the bottom, but leave the other edge open so that you have room to let your landscape expand. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to start doing one piece at a time. I'm using repositionable craft glue. You can also just use a glue stick, and as long as you don't let it sit too long, you should be able to reposition as needed. Okay, so just keep turning your pieces over and gluing them down. Once you're done, it's not going to be exactly even, so you will use like a paper cutter and cut the edges off again to make it square. So just keep building piece by piece. I'm gonna keep doing this on this landscape, and then I'm gonna show you some of the final art, both this landscape and the one that you watched me color. Okay, so this is the final fractured landscape after it's been cut and squared off. And this is the first landscape that you saw me color. And this one is cut more in curved lines, and I'm going to leave that up to you guys if you want to do geometric or curved lines on your landscape. This video was created by Sabrina Wingren at A Space to Create Art.